Hey, it's Cody from the Keepers of Nerdom. How y'all doing tonight? I needed to just have a little bit of a random musings for the evening because of not the thing actually behind me, but in part because it reminds me of it. So this is actually the Star Trek, was it 25th anniversary game? Maybe. Uh, this game, pure crazy, by the way. It's not a great game. I am so glad I own it. Have I beaten it? No, I have not. I've tried a few times, but it's boring. But it's also a fun piece of nostalgia to have. But the reason I really want to talk to you tonight is because something just happened this evening that me and my wife finally got to sit down and finish the Orville. I believe it was episode 4 or 5. I think it's 4. I think. Uh, wow. Wow. Whoa. Okay. So first thing, okay, the Orville is a sci-fi show. Side note: if you're a kid, just keep in mind, parents, the first 2 seasons are a little bit more inappropriate because the first season they were very much a focus on Seth MacFarlane as comedy and his inappropriate humor. You know, he is the creator of Family Guy, and so he has a level where he goes with a lot of things. And then season 2 toned that down a decent amount, but there was times where it got really awkward. But some of the awkwardness wasn't because of the comedy necessarily. It was actually because they were having social commentary. Good science fiction, okay? Good science fiction comes from good commentary on current things in a science fiction way. And those are beautiful things, but also great stories on their own that don't necessarily have to have commentary on things in the here and now. That's the cool thing. That's like there's a balance. You can have really cool action scenes and dilemmas in their culture and society that are going on there, but you can also have commentary on social things in amongst the stuff going on in the current year. That's why Star Trek, the original series, so often if they would travel back in time, would be the very era that it was showing in. And same with the Next Generation. The reason I really want to talk to you about the Orville, though, was this is pure sci-fi at some of its greatest. And it's got this interesting thing of it feels like Star Trek. I haven't gotten a chance yet to see Strange New Worlds, but I've heard some pretty good things about it because it's trying to return back to, in many ways, back to form, where it's actually old school Star Trek, where things are happening and exciting and fun and asking questions that are sometimes deep and tough, but also enjoying itself and not trying to be angry and upset about the world and society and life. And that's okay. Here's the thing. That's the thing about Star Trek and good sci-fi is that there was moments where it could have a lot of brevity and fun, but also it could get really serious and hard. Like some of my favorite episodes are hard episodes where, like Measure of a Man in Next Generation, where we see the debate of, is Data a person? Does he have a soul? Is he an actual life form? These are great questions. These are fantastic questions. And then there's also episodes where things are just silly, like The Trouble with Tribbles, and then Trials and Tribulations is one of my favorite episodes from Star Trek in general, and Deep Space Nine overall, because it's so good. But then at the same time, Deep Space Nine has a great episode where it's literally Sisko telling the terrible thing that he's done and going, was it worth it? Was it worth it? And yes, I saved the Federation. It was worth it to make one person a terrible person to save the entire Federation. It's fantastic, and it's dark, and it's terrible, and yet you love it because you're on the edge of your seat of what did you do? And these are beautiful things. These are amazing things. And so the Orville, the first season was extremely goofy and silly, but yet had serious moments in it that they were questioning big topics and what should we do? And let's wrestle with this situation. And it was so good. In season 2, they lightened down the comedy and went more into those serious things. And again, loved it. So good. We watched through them at least twice already. It's one of those shows that we want to go back to, like Star Trek The Next Generation and Stargate SG-1 and Battlestar Galactica, where we want to rewatch them because they are intense, they are good, and they have moments of levity and fun. And then we get to Orville Season 3. Okay, this is what I'm really recommending. Watch Orville Season 3. A lot of the the crud, like the just inappropriate humor for no good reason is gone. And what is there is story. And the first 2 episodes, my word, like the first episode, not a whole lot happens, but they intentionally are getting you back into this world because they realize it's been a long time since we've had the show because of COVID stuff, that it wasn't happening. And so it makes sense. By the way, the fact that this is still going in some ways as an intro, I don't know if it's reset or repeated or at all, but this is crazy long. It's hilarious. So that's what I love about old Nintendo games, by the way. They just go for days about their little intro things, and it's so fun. So this is crazy. And then episode 2 is another thing where it's that return to good storytelling form. And even in episode 3 is the one so far that I'm like, not great, because it's just a type of story that I'm not a fan of. For one of my least favorite things in Star Trek was time travel episodes, because oftentimes when you get into time travel episodes, they don't go well. And that's actually why Trials and Tribulations I love, because they understand time travel and they make sure that they handle it properly, which is impressive. Finally, there it goes. It finally made it to just the beginning screen to start the game without you hitting a button. That's hilarious. That's why Trials and Tribulations is so good, because it doesn't take itself seriously, but they handle time travel well, and they actually have the time travel police show up, and that's how the episode is going, is an interview of, tell us what you did. How messed up did you make the timeline? And it's fantastic with that. Like, they really wrestle with it well. But the other thing that I don't ever like is reality episodes. There's an episode in TNG where Riker keeps being in a dream thing, and he's being told he's crazy and he's in an insane asylum, and you can't tell what's reality and what's not, and it just keeps going to a layer after layer after layer. And that's a little bit of like episode 3, where it just feels like that, where it's just it's frustrating, because it's one of those things where you're just like, not a thing. Like, and the conclusion of it was not great. I'm trying to be like spoiler free in a lot of ways, but the next episode, it has everything I want to see from an episode. It is a very Krill focused episode. That's all I'm going to really say about the episode. Okay. And I love that anyway, because they are, to Star Trek, they're almost like the Klingons or the Romulans, or a combo of both. But they're their own thing, because Seth MacFarlane did a great job of implementing that they have this religion and focus in their culture, and it's so much fun just to explore this. And they actually explored several like modern things about, ironically, election stuff. And that was interesting. They answered, for just a random moment, they deal with some stuff on like abortion. And that was kind of interesting, especially the timing of this episode coming out. Kind of weird. And we get awesome space stuff. That's all I'll say for that one. Just, wow, so good. Like, this is what you want from a show. That, like, I just had to stop and go, I need to go make a video about this, because it is that good. It was the great scenes, the great CGI to pull off the space stuff that they show, the interactions with the characters, the acting was on point. Side note, Bruce Boxleitner is in this episode, and it's not really entirely a spoiler, because you won't recognize him except by his voice, and you'll be like, wait. And I think there's another actor I recognize too that I couldn't figure out who it was that was playing a Krill. But Bruce Boxleitner, by the way, if you're not a heavy nerd, he was in Babylon 5. Again, a great sci-fi show. The CGI in it is terrible, because they were experimenting in the 90s with it, and at the time it was fascinating and fun, but it doesn't hold up well. And so, Bruce Boxleitner replaced the main character in that after, I believe, the first season, because he had some medical health issues stuff going on, and just did a fantastic job as well, because the original guy was really good, and then Bruce Boxleitner was amazing too. It's like, what is it? What is it with this? Like, SG-1 had a great lead, and then we have, like, Farscape, the weirdest, crazy sci-fi show ever, and yet, side note, go watch that show. We'll talk about that some other time. But, wow, just, The Orville is a show that if you love sci-fi, it will get you sunk in. But I warn you, like, parents, if you're, just keep this in mind, that the first 2 seasons are more inappropriate. Okay, this is Seth MacFarlane that started Family Guy and stuff like that. That he's known for this, and it's a part of that. So just keep that in mind. But this third season, like, they take a lot of that out, and I don't know that there's really been anything of major concern on that front, which I was really shocked so far this season, and it's a good thing. It doesn't need it. This show is that good, and it could stand on its own. And right now they're saying this is the last season of Orville, and I go, please no, because this is Star Trek again in a beautiful, beautiful way. That Seth MacFarlane knows how to tell story and be loving and kind and considerate to the fans that love science fiction and honor them and build on this world and give them amazing concepts and characters. The character of Isaac. How is it that sci-fi knows how to take characters that have no emotion and have no great reactions to things and actually make them the most interesting characters in the show? I don't know what it is that they do, but they can take characters like this and go above and beyond. And I'm amazed after watching Obi-Wan this week and going, they're struggling to figure out how to make Star Wars other than Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. And over here, Seth MacFarlane's going, I know how to make Star Trek better than Star Trek does right now, and that's amazing. It's so crazy that we have this amazing show, and I hope and pray that this is not the final season of this, because this show is so good. It has action, it has acting, it has story, it has humor, it has amazing stuff. And side note, I'm a ship guy, and when I first saw it, again, not a fan of the Orville ship itself. And as the show went on really quickly, I went, I'm in love with this little ship because it's weird and it's different and it looks kind of like a squid octopus thing in space, and I love it. And it's so cool. And I think it's funny, by the way, in this episode you see it fly nearby one of their version of the Federation, the Union, their bigger ships, and it always just hits when you're like, the Orville is a itty bitty ship. When they say it's an Explorer class vessel, it's Explorer class. Like, Seth MacFarlane's captain, Ed Mercer, he is not captaining like the lead ship in the fleet. No, he is captaining an Explorer vessel that's like a step above. What were those ships in the TNG that get blown up all the time that looked really ridiculous? What was it called? Anyway, think of like a Nebula class in the TNG era, but oh my goodness, it's going to hit me later. I can't remember the name of the little ship that was in some of the older movies of Star Trek TNG, and then the original series, and then TNG had them, and they were a science vessel, and they were like terrible with the itty bitty little saucer, and then a long pod underneath where they had stuff, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. It's going to hit me later. The Pegasus was one of them as well. But I don't know. But overall, guys, Orville is fantastic. So in the comments, I'd be curious, what is your favorite science fiction show if you've watched one? What is it? I'd love to hear it. Love to comment about it as well, because I love hearing what it is that just gets you super excited to watch sci-fi. What is the one that got you into it? So anyway, I'm Cody from the Keepers of Nerdom. I hope this has found you guys in a spot, and I hope that if you haven't seen Orville Season 3, go watch it. Take care.